Okay, we're joined this hour by Tom Earl, who we're really excited, and this is pretty cool thing for those watching now, and definitely share it later to make sure that the other people can benefit from the conversation we're gonna have, because Tom is the Zoom before it was cool guy. I mean, you were Zooming before the rest of us, so you have some insight to it. Can you tell us a little bit about your about the work you've been doing since like 2015 with all these different video applications?
Yeah, definitely. So background pre 2015 was I was in the nonprofit world doing leadership development, anti-bias trainings, but then on the side I was also a musician and a poet. And so two things happened at once. For the leadership training and the poetry, people wanted access to it more than just having to be in the local space I was doing it. And then also for the leadership training, it being more than just, your workplace or your school or somebody sponsors our team coming in. So at the same time for both, I realized both needed to go online. So for the leadership part, I started an online school. And then for the poetry part, what I started doing was hosting live open mics on Zoom. The reason I liked Zoom, I was looking for something where what's called a gallery view, where you can see everybody at the same time. I didn't want to do something that was just live where I couldn't see people, because then it doesn't feel like you're in the room together like it does for an open mic. So then in 2015, I started the live and online expression session, where we'd have a writing workshop at the beginning, and then a featured poet perform at the end. And so for all of that, we were using Zoom. And I've learned, and I use Zoom for my podcast interviews as well. So I've learned many tips and tricks, and I've had many interviews, or many times where a poet, someone I was doing, would be in a completely dark room, and you could just see a little bit of their face. They say, "How do I look?" Or someone would be at a loud coffee shop. You couldn't hear a word they were saying. So I figured out lots of ways to, pre-frame it before people even get on the call, to let them know best practices for being a guest.
Yeah. No, that's really exciting. So, I really want to get into the tips and the tricks and all that, but there's a little bit this series has been kind of a little bit of a human interest story, a human interest kind of thing as well. So, can you tell us a little bit about your background in poetry and non-bias training?
Yeah. So how I got there?
Yeah, I mean, how'd you become a poet?
Well, so I say a lot of it starts with punk rock. So, what's the punk rock changed my life. You know how that starts off, that Sublime song. So that was me. So I got to college and wanted to study music and art. So I started off on that pathway. And then probably around my sophomore year, I took a Africology class. Some schools call it Black Studies, some call it African Diaspora Studies. And that class, every single class, not as in the whole semester, but each individual class, I walked out feeling like a changed person, more self-awareness about who I am, my place in the world, the history of how we got here. And so I thought, music, although it's great, the music department was intense. I can learn a lot of this stuff on my own, but I can't, recreate the conversations and the environment that I'm getting in the Africology classes. So I changed my major to Africology, and I left feeling this great sense of calling to actually do something. So I joined AmeriCorps, which is the domestic version of the Peace Corps, moved to Florida, and there I worked at an organization called Community Tampa Bay, where their mission was to cultivate leadership skills in high school students to end all forms of discrimination. So while I was there, that's where I got tools on being a facilitator, to use dialogue and experiential learning to actually have students, instead of just lecturing to them and telling them racism is bad, homophobia is bad, how do you walk them through a process where they come to that realization on their own? At the same time, now that I was out of school, I no longer had access to, a community of people who were trying to make the world a better place. And so I've heard of Saul Williams. I'd seen him, he performed at my school once. So I thought, well, let me try out this spoken word thing. I like performing. I'm a musician. So I went to spoken word open mic at my college, performed, loved it, got addicted. And then when I moved to Florida, I heard about this thing called slam poetry. I didn't know any of the rules. I had like a 6-minute poem. found out that you can't do that slam poetry. So I literally rewrote the poem in my car like a couple minutes before going on stage, and made it to the second round. So I thought, well, let me, I guess you're supposed to memorize your poems. I guess they're supposed to be 3 minutes. Let me try again. Went back the next time, and I won that slam. So I got addicted to that slam bug. Since, moved to California, started doing poetry here as well. We're kind of caught up. Started doing anti-bias stuff here. I was a part of a team when in California, as you know, Black and brown students were being disproportionately suspended. I was a part of a team that was training California educators on inclusive, anti-bias training and stuff like that. So that kind of brings us up to 2015 in a 3 minute. There's a lot of nooks and crannies along the way. A lot of aha.
You start doing this series. What were some of these? What were the episodes that what were you putting on Zoom? What were you programming?
For when I first started?
Yeah, when you started on Zoom, you told me you're on Zoom. You told me you got these showcases and interviews. But like, okay, what were they? What showcases of who? Interviews of who? So what was the theme of your Zoom curation?
Yeah, so first thing I did was, and I recommend anybody listening, it's really helpful to have some sort of something people can buy. And so what I did is I started an online school called the Celebration Academy that made the leadership development stuff that I was doing much more accessible for the everyday person to access versus your school or business needing to have thousands of dollars to have me or my team come in and speak. So once we launched that, once you have a paid program, then you need to have some sort of organic free content that slowly builds a relationship with people or quickly builds a relationship people where they can at some point decide that they want to increase their dedication, their commitment, and the knowledge that they're going to gain. So they pay for something that's more systemic, that's more targeted. So that's where I realized, okay, I need to start a podcast. So started a podcast, and at first I was just doing solo episodes, but I realized that I'm really a big fan of conversation. I believe conversation can change someone's world and be that spark that sets something else up. So there was 2 things I started doing. I started just interviewing people, everyday people, leaders, but basically people who aren't artists or performers. And then I started interviewing poets. So I would interview a poet, and then I would use that interview to promote the live and online expression session that I would run on the last Sunday of the month. So I was interviewing people like you. You're a guest. One of the videos that you did, your Fuck Trump poem, that's got one of the most viewed poems that we've published.
What? So you got someone else with 20,000 views? Shit, man.
So, on that note, if you would have performed that poem at your house like this, people would have still loved it. But we definitely find that if I can get people here in my studio and do their poems separately, and it's much more produced, that it goes a long way.
Yeah.
So, there's people I would do an hour. The interview should have been an hour, and the interview would take 4 hours because their audio kept coming in and out. When they first started, they were standing in front of their bed that was completely unmade. Their dog would bark. So I was like, this can't happen. So
yeah.
Like I said, that's one of the biggest, if you're looking to go on Zoom and start interviewing people, or I'm sure you found with the lives that you're doing, that you find that the hardest part is managing the guest.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's what you gotta really put a lot of what's that called? Conflict management, or worst case scenario management of is the guest.
Yeah. So for those, this isn't about me. This is about Tom. But for those fans of my work, or at least that one poem, that is the wall behind Tom. This is the same. That is the same thing. That video comes from an interview with Tom. And I appreciate you. Thank you, Tom. That's the most successful video I have on Facebook. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's move into the Zoom section of this conversation here, or the more before we get to shop talk. I'm really kind of inspired by some of the aspects. Some of the aspects of doing things like this are kind of depressing, because like the open mics and stuff like that your locals open mics is kind of like a sad imitation of what life was. But some things are much more exciting when you connect with people from all over the world. Distance doesn't matter. It just is what it is, and that's kind of exciting. That's kind of thrilling. And it's kind of what the internet always promised, but we never really made. Not as many of us made use of it as said they would. So, what is your kind of vision for what we can do even after this pandemic in more use of these types of technologies?
Well, I think there's a number of things that are pros. There are definitely cons to internet versus, in-person stuff. I would say the reason I went online is because I kept hearing people say LA traffic. So my open mic was Thursdays at 8 p.m. So most people would have every intention of going, and then a Thursday would roll around, and it was just like, do I really want to? I just got home from work. Do I really want to face the traffic again? And then once you start doing poetry and you do, I did a couple of tours and, Southern Fried, you meet people from all over the country. And until you do another show in that town, you don't get to be a part of that community. Mm-hmm. So I appreciate how online it removes the barrier of location and it removes the barrier of access. That as long as I have a phone, I don't even have to go on video, that I can be a part of this. Mm-hmm. I also noticed that you get a different intimacy and experience from the participants and from the feature than you would get if they did it live. Especially because the feature quickly realizes the same, when I perform at this exact moment, the crowd's going to do this. And when I perform and I do this with my hand, the crowd's going to do that. The feature's put in this new place where, first of all, there's no mic. I think a lot of what we practice as poets is our relationship with the mic stand and the mic and how we, our body on the stage. But now I'm sitting down, I'm in my home, there's no mic, there's no audience snapping instantly when I talk. Mm-hmm. And so you usually find that the performer needs to do something just a little bit different. And it's usually a little more intimate, and not saying that our performances aren't authentic and genuine, but it's a different kind of authenticity and genuineness.
Yeah. Not me. I do the Blair Sedillo project. I become my own indie filmmaker. I start like
audience button. People are clapping with you.
Yeah, it's a brave new medium. I'm like, okay, well, I gotta figure this out now. I gotta stay ahead of the pack here.
I suppose to answer your question, my mission is for as many people as possible to be able to make a sustainable living and an impact. So an impact and an income doing what they love. That's my mission. The agency I run, that's our mission. Impact and income doing what you love. There's a lot of people I see who are doing phenomenal work on the impact side, but their work isn't bringing any resources into them. And so you see people who are poor imitations of leadership making tons of money. Then you see people who are absolutely the real deal, but don't really have the whole business thing that other people are plugged into, just struggling. And because they're struggling, they also, it holds back how many people they could be reaching. So for me, my vision or mission is that as many people who are doing the real deal, that they can start to use digital media to actually have a bigger audience, but also have a sustainable income that they can thrive on. That's one of my big missions. So the capitalist side is a part of my vision for thought leaders.
Well, I mean, everyone knows my politics, but my ears just opened up because everyone else also knows my hustle. So where are the streams of income coming from?
Well, so I think the best way really is to have some sort of product. And so, there's obviously a lot of people already doing like the Patreon where donate, support me this way. I think that's your lowest cost of entry. So if you're somebody who's consistently putting out content that people find valuable and is helpful, minimally you should have like a Patreon or some sort of way that people can start to donate. Yeah. But really, people should start to have either pre-recorded or live things where you have to pay to have access to. So, for example, one thing that you're doing a summit right now, you're interviewing, I think you said like one person a day. Is that what you're doing? Did I lose you?
Oh, I'm doing like 9-10 people a day.
Okay. You're doing 9.
Can you hear me?
So yeah, I can hear you. So you could do something like if you were to promote it ahead of time where you let people know these are the let's say you set up for 3 weeks out. So you're going to interview what, like 50 people in 3 weeks?
No, I would interview something like in 3 weeks, like 180 if I could get them.
So if you were to promote to people, here's the 180 people I'm going to interview, you'd have their faces on the flyer, their names. After each interview, you get access to it for 48 hours. But to have access to the full recordings of the interviews, plus I'm going to create some notes around each person, some action items, stuff like this. To have access to that, you have to pay X amount of dollars. That would be an example of a model you're seeing a lot of people do really well. People sign up for that. Then the process continues. Now you have a list of people who are going to buy from you. Let's say you sold that for $50. Now you talk to those people and say, hey, clearly you're interested in this kind of stuff. My specialty is blank and blank. So yours could be like how to use the power of your voice and your message to move people. I've had so-and-so amount of views and da-da-da-da-da. I'm taking a small group of people through an 8-week course. We're going to meet on Zoom every week plus Q&A. And you're literally going to come out the other end with da-da-da-da-da. And that's going to be $1,000, $500. So that could be an example of how someone like you could monetize what you're doing right now.
Yeah. What has been your experiences trying to take this to institutions like schools and universities?
Which part?
Have you done presentations with or larger organizations, or is it just like a person to person? Is this like just client based?
Presentations on social media and Facebook ads and stuff?
No. Just the work you've done over the way you've used Zoom. Has it been just client based, or has it also been has your client been not just individuals but like organizations?
Yeah. So once after way at the beginning of Trump's madness, when he did the first Muslim ban, a couple universities reached out to us and wanted us to host online forums where their students could come on an online Zoom and we'd facilitate a conversation where people could ask questions and get feedback. And then we also did an Islamophobia training for those universities as well. So I got a couple facilitators that were really pros in that area, and I just kind of hosted the Zoom part, got everybody on, organized it, and then handed it off to the experts. So those are two examples of connecting with institutions.
Yeah. I'll probably talk to you about this later because that's more my game is the institution.
Yeah, definitely.
Those are my questions, but I also don't want like all my. I don't want your answers. I don't want my competition to see your answers. So that's that. And if they want them, they're gonna have to pay for a Patreon.
There you go. Hey, you could do certain parts of your interview. You gotta pay to get access to. That's another way to monetize it.
Yeah. That's funny. That's I don't know. The wheels in my head are turning now. But anyway, so so what are some of the frequently asked questions and challenges do you find that people have that are just now getting onto Zoom who don't have all these years of expertise and working with it?
Well, so I'd say basically the bread and butter of a Zoom call is your audio and is your video. So let's start with video. A good video goes a really long way. So one thing you want the light to always be in front of you. You don't want any light behind you or to the side of you. So like right now with you, you'd want to be facing that window rather than having it to the side of you on your end, Matt. So see, game changer.
Yeah, I suffer from some male pattern vanity, but that's not. I hear that. You want the light behind you, not in front of you. Okay.
Yep. What's up, Zach? Appreciate the shout out. Love you too. So you want the light, the thing though that a lot of people are going to find is that you can't always rely upon the sun. So it's helpful to get some sort of ring light. So there's ones you can just clip onto your computer, your screen that are $10, $15. Clip one of those on. Then you would probably want to have all the lights out. You'd want to draw the curtains. You'd want to have no light around you. And then once you turn it on, you can control the light. So then this is just for folks who want to go the extra step. For all of us, we have, oily faces. So then you're going to want to put some baby powder on your face. And I can promise you whatever, skin tone you have, the baby powder isn't going to lighten your skin. So you don't have to worry about that. It's going to get rid of the oils. So you put that on, or if you have a powder-based makeup, put that on a little bit so that your face isn't quite so oily looking with the zoom light. Obviously, that's only if you want to go that extra step. So that's video. Then behind you, you also want it to look fairly nice. So the best thing you can do is get against a wall. So if possible, if you have the light, you're facing the light, and then you get against some sort of wall where you can kind of control what's behind you. Yeah. If you have maybe one sort of painting or something that doesn't reflect. So if you have a glass on a frame, you don't want to do that because then the light's going to reflect off the glass. But if you can be against a wall, and if it's a white wall, have some sort of like one painting or something that just doesn't make you against a white wall. Then lastly, you want to make sure that you don't blend into your surroundings with your shirt. So if you are going to stand against a white wall, don't have a light colored shirt on. If you're going to stand against a dark wall, don't have a dark colored shirt on, or it'll just look like your head's floating. It also, Zoom does have where you can change your background. You can have a AI, artificial intelligence background of a picture, and so it'll try to distinguish your human body from your background. So if you get on a call and your bed's unmade, you're like, oh crap, you can go down to the Zoom toolbar and put on a picture where it looks like you're at the beach. Or what we've been seeing people do, this is interesting, is people are, like a lot of the professionals, they're in a studio, right? Whether it's their home studio or in an office studio, and then they put up a fake picture of their house. So it looks like that they're working from home, but it's like a perfect picture of a background of a home. So you can do that too if you want to have like a fake background of working from home. Your best case scenario.
I that is exactly where my mind went. I was like, I'll clean my room, I'll take a picture of it, and I'll clean the desk up, I'll make it look really nice, and I'll take a picture of that, and you'll think that that's where I'm working from. I mean, I'm like trying to think, like, I wonder if I can like dress myself up in a suit, take a picture of that, and have my head move around in a stationary body,
That's another good point. I do have I have a short sleeve shirt and a long sleeve shirt hanging up right next to me. And so anytime I go on a call, like, they're just exclusively for my Zoom. So boom, I put it on. So if people follow me, they'll realize that like I do coaching for somebody and their daughter came over and said, oh, he's wearing his shirt. So I was like, oh, okay. So people do realize I wear the exact same shirt for every single call, but it looks really nice. It's right next to me if I need to put it on in a hurry. So that leaves audio. So one thing you're going to find for yourself or for people you're talking to is that if your internet's down, your audio sucks. And there's nothing that ruins an interview or a meeting more than when somebody freezes and you're only catching every other word.
Yeah.
So the biggest game changer I found for Zoom meetings is if you're looking at your Zoom toolbar, first of all, you need to be using the desktop app or the app, not using the Chrome, streaming it from the Chrome. Okay. So download the Zoom actual app. Don't be using it on your phone. Download the desktop. Okay. So let's download it. In the bottom left, you're going to see something that says mute. There's an up arrow. You click that up arrow, and then there will be something that says connect through phone. Boom. You click the connect through phone. It's going to give you a number. You call that number. It's going to give you the meeting ID. You call that. Most importantly, though, you then need to enter the participant ID. Once you enter the participant ID, it'll, instead of duplicating you as you're here by video and you're here by phone, it'll have you there by video, but the audio will be your phone. And so your phone's not going to go out of, you're not going to lose connection with your phone. Those days are kind of done. Can you hear me now? Like, as long as you're sitting still, your phone will be perfectly crisp. So that way, even if your video freezes, your audio will continue to come through perfectly clean. So I think that's going to be a game changer for a lot of people. And then make sure you have some sort of, headphones that connect to your phone that you can talk on.
Mm-hmm. Are there particular hours that it's better to set up a Zoom? I mean, I know that right now that like kind of everyone's gone on the internet, so it's kind of it's definitely overwhelming Instagram. It's overwhelming Facebook at times. Have you noticed that Zoom has been affected by these freezing moments? It's kind of just the servers getting overwhelmed.
Yeah, Zoom is crazy taking off. So we used to, for our participant ID, you'd use a 2-digit number. Right now we're using a 6 or 7 digit number. So that should tell you how many people, it'd be like your license plate used to just be 2 letters. And now, because there's so many people getting cars, it's a 7 plate thing,
Yeah.
I think that, and every time of the day is going to have both its challenges, because I have a newborn, I'm up at 3 a.m. and I work with people overseas. So I'm on Zoom at 3 p.m. and 3 a.m. And, 3 p.m. overseas is their 9 a.m. So there's really no time of day where it's perfect.
Yeah.
So you just kind of got to go with it. I would say it's been good. It's really people's internet. When your internet's slowing down, it's going to mess up Zoom, then Zoom itself being messed up.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't saying that Zoom itself is, I'm saying I've noticed that it's, these are giant corporations and they hire people who are very skilled and talented, but at the same time, it's just they weren't built for, what I'm saying? They weren't built for, it's a pandemic and everyone's online, they weren't necessarily built for those capacities to be someone lives in a big house, but all of a sudden 10,000 people showed up to walk into your house, even if you have a mansion. That's I thought it was a big house, and then 10,000 people showed up, right? So kind of like that. So,
yeah, that's what happens to a lot of people on Shark Tank. I don't know if anybody watches Beyond the Tank, but you think, oh, if only I got a ton of new customers, that's what my business needs. But going from 100,000 people to 1 million people, any glitches you have will be instantly magnified by 1 million people, all contacting customer support, pissed off, all going on the forums, pissed off. And so before you get 100,000 happy people, the couple people upset that you can quickly deal with. Mm-hmm. And so for all of us, it can be the kiss of death to have that much success overnight. So, I emailed Zoom customer support a question. Normally they get back to me within 24 hours. It's been 3 weeks. I haven't heard anything. So
I want to ask you this now. Now, this is more of a broad question and not so much tech-based, but just generally speaking as an entrepreneur, you speak to you don't want successes that you're not ready for, right? So can you speak a little bit to how you want to you want your success to be kind of scaffolded,
yeah.
You have to be, you want to grow at a rate where your next stage of growth can be supported by your last stage of growth, right? So can you speak a little bit to that?
Yeah. So I'd say, if you're just starting out, that it's great. So basically, let me tell it from the context of what I do. So I run a Facebook ads agency. We've helped our clients in the past year generate over $3 million using Facebook ads. So a lot of people come to us. There's a decent amount who are at stage making less than $1,000 a month, and they want to start making that $50K a month. And so they want us to start running Facebook ads for them to get them to that point. So the thing we share is that something like Facebook ads or something like going viral, that instant attention is only going to amplify what's already there. So if your product has some glitches or some inconsistencies, or it's something that people just don't want, it's only going to let you know that louder, more clearly, and with more people telling you that. So the first step you should do is, can you, on your own, by direct messaging people, putting out content, all these organic type ways, can you get people to purchase what you have? If the answer is yes, then once you're getting people to come through that process, you should be trying to talk to as many customers who have bought from you as possible to find out, did they actually like it? Was there any glitches? Was there anything they could do better? And if you have it, can you get them to buy again? Because if they don't buy again, then even if they're telling you on the phone that it was great, they loved it, then they're already letting you know that actually they didn't love it. So once you've kind of ironed out those two things, that actually this is something that I can get people to buy with just my personality, with me just using my time, talking to people, having conversations, and people love it, they're leaving reviews, they're sending me video testimonials, and they're purchasing again. Now you can start to run ads. So you start to run ads, or you start to build up in whatever way you're doing it. Brick and mortar, maybe you're not running ads. Now you go from $1,000 a month to now you're at $10K a month. That's awesome. You're there. Now when you're at 10K, you want to look and see, you've gone from probably serving about, let's say 5 to 10 people a month to 100 to 500 people a month, depending on your product. Now that you don't have that same intimacy that you had when it was just 5 people, do you yourself, as the person putting out the product, still enjoy it with not having as much of that intimacy hands-on? Do you still like where you're at? What about the customers? Are there questions that are coming up that aren't getting answered as quickly? They don't get as much one-on-one time with you. Are they still finding it just as valuable? So you're still asking the same questions. Are they buying again? I would say once you get up to that 50K a month mark, that's when, once you go past that mark, you are now becoming a business and an HR. So you have to hire people to get past 50K. And so once you're past that, you as the founder are going to go from doing a lot of the work that you really enjoy doing to managing employees. And they stereotype the HR department as like not a happy place to be for a reason. Managing humans can have its challenges. So we usually with our clients, once they get to that 50K a month mark, really have them sit down and consider, do you want to stay kind of a mom and pop shop making 50K? That's a great living. That's $500,000. You're in the 1%. Anything above $400,000 a year is 1%. Are you ready to go to the next stage? So, I guess I'm giving a long answer to that. Basically, we say like your first stage is to get to 3K a month, then 10K a month, and then 20 to 30K. And then after 50K, it becomes where you are basically running a business where you're managing people. Do you want to keep going? To answer your question?
Yeah. Your question at the end, do you want to keep going? It reminded me of like Netflix when you fall asleep. Like, are you still there? You now have employees. What kind of boss are you? Like, are you gonna give them medical? Are you gonna give them dental? They need parental leave. Like, be a decent human being here. Like, do you want to keep going? Like, yeah. Right. Wow.
I would say, because some people might be thinking right now, Tom, you're crazy. There's no, those numbers are not in my future. 50K a month. I'm just trying to figure out how I can bring in 1K from what I'm doing, or 3K. Here's my advice. If you're just starting off and you need cash flow in your business, then you need to figure out a product where you can charge the most amount of money you possibly can. And for a lot of us, our stories about money, and that's going to bring up a lot of things. Like, well, then it makes it inaccessible. Of course, you can say that, Tom, you're a straight white guy. It's in your DNA to be inaccessible. All these kind of things. I totally understand. My suggestion is put out as much free content as you can, where people just can access. Boom, like you're putting out stuff all the time. But when you have an actual product, you should have it as much as you possibly can. And what I mean by is $1,000 or more, because to get one person to give you $1,000 is easier than getting 10 people to give you $100. You'd think it wouldn't be. You'd think if I lower the price, the demand's going to rise. But what actually happens is, for a long time, I used to sell my products as pay what you can, or scholarship, free, all these kind of things. And I would really struggle to have people show up and to make sales. As soon as I started charging $1,000 or more, $5,000, $10,000, everybody wanted it all of a sudden. And the people who did pay actually showed up.
So
and I'm still, what'd you say?
$1,000.
Yeah. So that's my thing. Most people who are going to complain and say you're an asshole for charging so much, they weren't going to buy from you anyways.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm just telling you, finding 5 people who will each give you $1,000 versus finding 50 people who are going to give you 100, it's so much easier to get 5 people to give you 1,000. And now you're at $5,000 a month. That's a game changer. Most people can now do they're doing full time. So that's my advice. Anybody out there, if your wheels are turning, you're thinking, oh, I could do this. Whatever it is that you were thinking, my suggestion is to double it, to double the price. And people will sign up. You just got to get them on the phone. You got to close those kind of people on the phone.
Yeah. No, I see for me, like, okay, I'm in a situation where I don't like I can get like the type of money you're talking about. I get that from like colleges and institutions all the time. Like that's nothing,
Yeah.
right? That's normal for me, right? But from an individual, I always like feel like, okay, I should charge like 250. I should charge this. I should like this. I shouldn't charge more than that. And like even the writing workshops, I was charging like $50, right? So that was like because I wanted it to be accessible, and I wanted people to be able to get it. Oh, Tom was so disgusted by my pricing that he left. Let's see if we can get him back. Yeah, I was like, Tom got so disgusted by my price point that he was like, I'm out of here. I'm wasting my time. I'm wasting my time here.
250, not even worth my time. I'm out of here.
Get out of here. I thought I was here to talk to some quality people. No, I mean, but the point is, I didn't want to price it too high because I wanted to keep it accessible. But I mean, there was this idea in my mind of like what you're talking about, which is a more high-end client, which would be someone that like you could like it would be the services will be far more extensive, and it would also be catered to people who could afford it. I mean, who could afford it and who yeah, or who could anyone could afford it, but like who thought that like this is what I really want. Matt is someone who really knows how to do it. I'm going to invest this amount of money. I guess there's a weird thing associated with guilt or something.
Yeah,
I think a lot of us have. Yeah.
I mean, I'm with you. Like we all have a money story, and because we're activists, accessible differentiate or to say like you get to keep going or you don't. So then if we start charging dollar amounts that we know are a part of that barrier, it's like, man, I'm a sellout. I'm a part of the problem. I'm a capitalist. So I hear you, and so I go through that as well. My thing is that I tell people have a long game view. So first of all, put out tons of free content so that the everyday person can access your stuff. They can implement it, and hopefully it'll get them to make more money. But for now, think of I'm going to serve 5 people so that 2-3 years from now, I have a team that allows me to serve almost everybody, right? So if you were to make 5 to 10K a month from your work consistently, predictably, with that, you could support yourself and you could probably start to build a team. You could start to automate things so your cost per lead goes down. So now let's say you're making a little bit more. Now you can afford to say, hey, here's a $50 course. Here's a pay what you can program, because you don't have to rely upon that program in and of itself to make you your living. That's a program you're putting out to be accessible so people can participate in it. But to get there, you need to be able to set yourself up so that you yourself can make a living off what you're doing, because then we all benefit from you doing it full time and from you having a team so you can put out more content. But I say to get there for that first year, that first 5 to 10K, you do have to focus on, I suggest, high ticket, knowing that the long-term vision is you are going to get there where your programs are pay what you can or et cetera. But you're not going to be able to survive off pay what you can unless you're like at scale where your audience is 1 million people. So when you're saying pay what you can, it's 10,000 people each giving you $10 or 5,000 people giving you $5. Then yeah, you can do pay what you can or $5 all day. But at first, you're only going to be in contact with a certain amount of people, and you want to be clear on, do you want to serve the people who are kind of I don't want to say tire kickers, but hey, I want to check out what Matt's doing, but I don't want to spend that much. Because there's people who are saying that exact same thing to you, and then they're putting something on a credit card that adds up to $1,000 that they absolutely don't need. Like, and I'm not judging them. I'm just saying when we, as people putting out products that actually will change people's lives, say, people just don't have the money. That's true, but that hasn't stopped anybody from spending money they don't have on things they don't need. And what you have is actually going to transform their life.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Plus, there are people who do have $1,000 who, when you give them the results, hey, you'll get blah, 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 blah. That's worth $5,000 to them. When they implement that stuff, they're going to make this much money back, whether it's by winning a slam or being able to present at school or being able to present at work or being able to finally express themselves. Whatever that is, the value is going to be way more than $1,000. And there's definitely 5 people in the entire world that you can communicate that to.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, some of the stuff I teach is like with the 3 act poem model. It's actually a way in which you can like it's a way to think. Like, and I mean, it's not just about writing poems. It's about it's about structuring and looking at a model that moves away from understanding the how and the what. Like, so like, what is happening, how am I going to deal with it, like, what is this, what is that. So so it's got topic, details, point on one side, act one, act two, act three. But if you can even apply it to a problem with people, like, all right, what is the problem, here's the problem, here are the details of the problem, what is my point, what am I trying to accomplish here, all right, what am I going to do first, what am I going to do second, what am I going to do third. I mean, like, this is a way of like just completely this, it's the service I have to offer. Yeah, it could definitely change people's lives.
Here's the thing.
Like, I feel like weird, like, being like, hey, I guess I need to charge people I don't know.
Look, there's two things. One, what you're experiencing right now, every entrepreneur has gone through, for the most part, unless they were raised in an environment where the kind of money we're talking about is, and charging people for it is nothing. But for most of us, we were conditioned that that's a shit ton of money. That's, some people are barely like hoping and praying for $1,000. If they had $1,000 a month, it would change their life absolutely. And now I'm saying, one person give me this for this thing. All of us have that money story. And as entrepreneurs, when we start charging people, that's why entrepreneurship is a spiritual journey, because it's something we all have to now go through if we want to start, talking about, can I bring in money from this? The other thing is, there is absolutely right now people who are getting $5,000, $10,000 to speak, right? To speak somewhere. And their audiences are falling asleep. Somehow, and so for you to come in and be like, you're getting $5,000 per speech, or you're getting $2,000 per speech. Let me help you actually do a good job, right? For them, that value for $1,000 of you helping them to be able to now have a template that they should plan their speeches around, and then when they deliver them, people are actually waking up and feeling energized, and then they buy that person's product from what they saw off the stage. Dude, like that's worth way more than $1,000.
Absolutely. That's a really good idea. I'm gonna start hitting up public speakers.
There you go.
Like, your shit's boring, like. Yeah, no, I'm really good at that reverse engineering stuff. So I'm like, you see what Tony Robbins just did? I mean, I don't even like this guy, but you see what he just did? Like, like that, yeah.
That's
all right.
I get clients like that. I'll go to people's Facebook. You can see what ads people are running on Facebook through Facebook ads transparency. And I'll go to their ads and I'll record a 4-minute video. I'll say, I see you're running ads. This is awesome. So cool. Hey, here's 3 things you're not doing that are making people tons of money. I record that. I upload it to YouTube as a private video, and I send them that as a message. And we bring in people all day that way. So you could do the same thing. Oh, I loved your speech. It was super awesome. Hey, just want to share 3 quick things. One thing I find is blank, blank, and blank. Hope this is helpful. If you want to hop on a call, I can answer any questions you have. And then you send it to them. And then the call, of course, is a sales call.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's some good stuff, Tom. That's some good stuff.
Got you back.
My mind is swimming.
And then you, of course, meet on Zoom.
And then, of course, you meet on Zoom. Once the sale is made and we walk into that glorious journey together of you giving me money. So, yeah, this has been really, really fantastic. What are some tips? What are some tips for those just getting started who just, like, say they have an idea, but they're not really necessarily thought leaders. They're not necessarily writers. They're not necessarily workshop leaders. Like, let's say I'm like a lifelong cook. Like, I'm a lifelong chef, or for my home. I don't, not professional, but like everybody knows I'm the best cook in the family. Everybody knows I make this great sauce, this, that, the other. And I kind of like, I want to like, maybe I'm like retired, right? And my whole life, what I really wanted to do was bake pizzas and stuff like that. And I built this oven in the back. Right now, I want to like bring people onto Zoom and show them, like these tricks and things I've developed over 40, 50 years of my life. What are tips for people like that?
Well, I'd say for everybody, whether you're selling a digital product, or a physical product, whether you're selling a service, whether you're a brick and mortar where you want people to come into the shop, the thing that we need even before the internet was people's trust and their relationship. Yeah. Everything happens through a bridge of relationships. So how do you build relationships with people? By getting their time and by getting their attention, and through their time and attention, you get their trust. And the deeper the trust, the deeper the relationship. As marketers, we're trying to speed up that process as quickly as we can.
Yeah.
But what it usually starts with is you get people in increments of 3 to 15 seconds. So if you're a cook with a really great recipe, you should be recording videos in your kitchen with you making whatever it is you're making and talking about making it da-da-da-da-da. Let's say that video is 15 minutes. Put that on YouTube. You put that on Facebook. You put that on IGTV. But then you should figure out what are 1-minute clips from that section that you can edit into 1-minute sections and post those 1-minute sections on Facebook or on Instagram. And then at the end say, hey, for this full clip, go visit this page. Because you want to kind of gateway drug people into your content where they get 15.
Yeah. Usually called commercials, but okay, gateway drug.
Because, let's say there was a funny scene where, I don't know, the pan started on fire or something like that. You'd want to put that part out. People see that like, what the hell? Oh, my God, I got to go see what this whole thing is. And then that's basically what you do. And I think interviewing people is one of the best ways because it's like when artists feature on other artists' songs, you get to siphon a bit of their following. So Matt has me on. Hopefully some of my people, Matt siphoning is like, now Tom Earl people are like, who's this Matt guy? And they become Matt fans. Obviously, I did it for the exact same reason. So if you are a chef, I would go on Instagram and I would see who are people on Instagram that are chefs or you think would like what you're doing that have around 10,000 followers. And I would direct message them and say, hey, could I interview you on Zoom and talk about chefing? And when you put that out and they put that out, you get to siphon some of their people.
Yeah. And fans of Matt will recognize that wall in the background.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, Tom, I really appreciate the time you spent here. What are the direct links and how can people get a hold of you to get involved in what you're doing and see some of your services and connect deeper with you?
Yeah, you can head to tomearl.com, TOMEARL.com. Can explore around there. I'd say the best way is to add me on Instagram at Tom Earl Artist, or you can add me on Facebook. If you DM me and say you found me via Matt, I can send you some free trainings if you want to learn. For instance, I have a great training on Facebook ads on a budget. So if your budget for Facebook ads is under $300, I can send you a free training on how you can actually make sure each one of those dollars gives you some return on investment rather than just helping Mark Zuckerberg colonize another island. So,
I put the link below for your website, and if there's anything else you can think of, just revisit this little conversation, and we can do that. And afterwards, probably just share this into groups that would, and I could do it too, but we share this into groups that would be amenable to this information because that's how the views grow. But I'm just telling you now, like on these videos, the way to grow them is to actually share them into groups and so even if at the time we get off, it'll say 40 people saw this. If you put it into groups, it'll go up to 200-300.
Yeah, I think, if you don't mind me just sharing, building on that, Matt's absolutely right that if you build it, they will come model of social media is not real. So if you think I'm gonna put out good content, put on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, oh my God, nobody's watching it. That's because nobody's watching anybody's videos. Really, only a few people are. That you have to actually go out and interact with people to then get them to see your stuff. So if it's on Instagram, whatever hashtags you're posting on, you need to go into those hashtags and comment on 15, 20 people's pages a day, DM 15 to 20 people a day. You have to actually go out. Like if you're at a networking event and you think, I'm just going to stand here and people are going to want to talk to me. That's the equivalent of putting content out on Instagram. You have to actually show up and put the content out, but you have to be that person in the room that's shaking people. How's it going? I'm Tom Earl. How's it going? I'm Tom. And you feel like an idiot, but it actually works. People walk away remembering, I didn't meet anybody but that random guy named Tom Earl. So that's what you got to do. Or you got to find the next TikTok, right? So TikTok's too late. People already know TikTok, but you got to figure out what's going to be the next social media that nobody's really using right now, but I anticipate that they will use 3 years from now. And if you start putting out content on there, since you're one of few people, you will become known in that niche. But that takes a lot of work. You got to have a long game vision on that. So if you're trying to make money in the short term, put the content out, but then you actually have to go and talk to people in Facebook groups on their page. You got to bring them to you rather than hoping they'll just come to you organically.
Yeah. And for anyone that has just kind of joined the second half, this is Tom Earl. Tom has been doing Zoom since 2015. So like he's way ahead of the game. I know a lot of us are getting on. I know I myself was like, when I lost like $8,000 in 24 hours.
Oh, damn.
College contracts, from lots of college contracts. And so I was like, but my mind was me like, okay, what do I need to do? I need to get online somehow. I need to stay ahead of the curve, you know? And so it's kind of like what you're describing now. I knew I had to stay ahead of the curve. I knew I had to do something. I knew that if I could stay ahead of the curve, I would stay ahead of the curve. I would come out on the other side of it with income and with an interesting product and just an interesting story to tell if I did that. But if I didn't, I would just be one of many. So that's what kind of, you know, promoted this whole idea of doing a series of these things. So
those colleges won't let you do an online version of what you were going to do in person?
So many of them were just like, how do we do Zoom? You know, so they all just like, I'm talking about, I mean, they might now if I hit them, if I follow up now, but they would dramatically reduce the price. A lot of them are talking about rescheduling. But like that kind of, I've been able to get some schools to bring me back in through Zoom. And again, like those fees you're talking about for me, that I can get those from colleges, and that's not an issue. I don't have any guilt about it. I don't have any morals about it.
Yeah,
it's an accounting error for giant institutions. For me, that's nothing. So I don't have that money story, those funny money feelings. But yeah, it's a good point. I should probably hit them up again. But doing this, don't go, because I'm going to tell you something that's not for public consumption afterwards. So anyways, it's not about me. This is about Tom. Tom, one last time, shout out your websites and all the things you think people should know.
Yeah, tomearl.com, TOMEARL.com. You should follow me on Instagram at Tom Earl Artist, or on Facebook, Tom Earl. You can add me. Send me a DM once you do, though, so I know that you came through Matt, and I'll send you some free trainings, you know, around Facebook ads, or if you want to get started on videos, I have tons and tons of free trainings. So hit me up, and I'll send you those, you know, no charge. So that's what should happen.
All right. See you soon, Tom.
One more thing. I'd love to continue the conversation. Feel free to join me at tomearl.com/join. Subscribe below, or let's connect on social media. Tom Earl Artist. Thanks again for watching.